Good afternoon. Today is the 27th of January. It's a Bubble Wrap Appreciation Day. And in class today, we started by reading this chapter of the book Checked. Our goal is to expose kids to a lot of different books and hopefully get them interested in picking some of those up. So we just read that aloud today. We also went over the roots for week 17 Latin and Greek work. The test will not be this Friday, but the Friday after. Let's go to Tuesday, or the second slide. In class today, we talked about a shift. We're going to shift back to informational reading before we get into the writing, just so we can review what informational reading looks like, so that we can consume it before we have to produce it. It's always easier to just read it before we have to write it. So we're going to focus there. We shared this definition of what informational text is. Primarily, we focused on these three ideas. First, it's real world, meaning it's something that we use as real people on a daily basis. For most of us, 70 to 90% of our reading is just informational reading. We talked about how the information is factual. We're not looking for opinions. We're careful to find information that is true and accurate. And it's also necessary to the reader. So informational text is usually consumed because we're trying to get something from it. We talked about how I'm starting to work on my taxes, and I needed to read a document from the IRS on how to handle one particular issue, and also how I was trying to fix the wiper blades on my truck, and I had to use the owner's manual to find something that I needed. So we talked about how informational text is a real-world thing. It provides factual information that the reader needs for something. From there, we did two exercises. The first one, we started here. We talked about Amelia Earhart, that article that we looked at the other day. That didn't load very well. It's kind of craney looking, but hopefully it loads better for our students. So we looked at this, and we looked at the text features like this sidebar and this image and caption and the headings. And we asked students, what did you learn from these things? So we're looking at, can you get something important from these text features? To show that they can, they completed this text tool. So we printed this out. We completed it in class today. We didn't worry about this top part, so you can just ignore that. We didn't really worry about the page number or the paragraph number. We just recorded a text feature and what we learned from it. So if I can go back to that article, I might say my text feature is the picture and caption. And what did I learn from it? They're currently working on a documentary on looking for Amelia Earhart's plane, and it's taken us to this remote island, and it's not necessarily on the island. It looks like it's near the island underwater. And so the exploration of what happened to Amelia Earhart, part of answering that question, what happened, is looking underwater for her plane or remains of her plane. So I would say something what I just said right here. We did these on paper today, so if you're going to do this at home on your own, make a copy of this and then either print it at home or be ready to print it and turn it in. We turn that in at the end of the hour, so we spent 5 minutes on each of these, so a total of 15 minutes altogether. And then after that, we talked about summary. So we're trying to write a summary guided by this rubric. Let's see if I can get the rubric open. This is just a test to see where our students are. I'm going to zoom in on the meeting column. I want my students to describe the central idea of the text, like what is the whole article about. I want them to be able to talk about the main ideas and some details about those main ideas. And then I want them to be able to write coherently and in a unified fashion. So coherently is presenting your ideas in a way that makes sense and making sure that the grammar, punctuation, word choice, etc. support the message, and that your grammar's not so bad that you're interfering with the message. So capture the main idea, some main details, and some information about each of those main details. We wrote our summary about one of these articles called Frog Tongues. So if you go here, you'll get a folder. The folder has 3 different articles. All of them are about frog tongues. And this one is for some of our readers that are struggling. This one is for our typical reader, and this one is for our readers that are really strong. If you're like here and you want to jump up, I would suggest reading this one and this one. If you're like an average reader and you want some support, I would read L1 and then I would read L2 and then write about L2. All of these articles are essentially the same, but they have slightly different wording. L1 has fewer words and less complex wording. And you'll find the inverse is true for number 3. So choose one you want to write a summary about. We wrote that summary for about 10 to 15 minutes. Most students, between reading and writing, were able to produce about a half a page of writing, and that's about what we're looking for. This will go in the grade book, but it's not for a grade. It's just kind of a progress check to see where we are with making sense of informational reading. That's it. If you have questions, let me know. If not, you've got a busy day ahead of you, and good luck with all of that.